Не знаю, ми будемо клеїти червоні стрічки.
Our conference, but still, I would rather ask you
Їх
to
диванів
respect
змістилися
each
ближче
other.
до центру, оскільки
So please
люди,
move
які будуть
closer to the
спілкуватися
center,
тут
because
на сцені,
the
вони
discussion
все-таки,
is going to
напевно,
be
не
here
хочуть
on
заглядати
stage.
там по кутках, по
I
диванах,
guess our
щоб
speakers
бачити ту аудиторію, до
would
якої
rather
вони
dislike
звертаються.
the idea
Тому
of peeking around, looking
заклик:
for people
встали
hiding
з
somewhere in the
диванів
corners, hiding on the
і
sofas. So
акуратненько
my
перемістилися
command
ближче
is
до
stand up
центру
and
пленарної
move
зали.
closer to the center. I guess we can continue. So, we are going on. We are going to have a wonderful journey. Probably you've heard the name already. It's a legend. It's a man of the legend. While we were preparing to our conference, we heard that name for many times. And I guess we would rather have an opportunity to listen to such a person and probably to ask him something. So, our format is a public interview. This public interview will be run by journalist Yuri Lapayev, who is a specialist in such a format. And our guest is Mr. Oleg Korostelov, General Director and General Designer of the State Enterprise KKB Luch. You are welcome. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Yuri Lapayev. I'm a deputy of chief editor of Ukrainian weekly journal. My task today is really difficult because the first speaker after lunch is always a challenge. But I hope that the topic of today's panel and the speaker himself will keep you high and will help you to fight this sleep and fatigue. Our topic is the future development of anti-missile system. The importance of this issue is evident. It has been outlined by many speakers. Azerbaijan has been reminded, and Syria has been reminded also. The success of unmanned aircrafts has been noted. I would rather add some few days ago at the International Moscow Airspace exhibition they are going to present a modern military aircraft. The Russians have constructed something new again. Probably it's a light jet fighter, PAK-LVI project. That doesn't mean it is going to be on our border the next day, but this demonstrates that our opponent is doing his best to improve his air force. And we are possibly going to fight this component also. So, how exactly are we going to fight it? Which technique are we going to use? So, Mr. Oleg Korostelov will tell us about that. as one of the main topics of our today's forum is international cooperation. Therefore, I would like to start with this. So the first question is, what about your cooperation with NATO, with international partners, with Europe, with the USA, whether your models are compliant with NATO standards and whether NATO countries are going to buy those models? Thank you for your question. You have said that you will help to fight the sleep for our audience, but I guess that actually we also have to interest them. I would rather start like this. The world has changed. For the recent 30 years, from 1991, it was a slow shift, slow for the big union of various states. Sometimes those states are friendly, sometimes are not, but they all are changing. We have changed the ideology of global war, of total war. Now we are facing the strategy of permanent local small wars. Stress it again, local and permanent wars. We have seen it before in the past, but after the disappearance of the Soviet Union, after the vanishing of the Soviet Union, it resulted in multiple local wars. Of course, those local wars require new weapons. I'm not going to speak about politics. I know nothing about it. But as for technique, well, I have a sort of experience in this field. I would rather say that first of all I'm the general designer on behalf of the state and a director. Well, I'm the director of KB Luch, as many other directors. But first of all, I would like to say that my duties make me analyze and think about various sectors of technique that needs development and support. So we are speaking about anti-missile protection and cooperation with NATO. KB Luch is cooperating with Bulgaria, Slovakia, the Czech Republic, Poland. It is shipping its products to many Arabian countries. But here is the question. And what about the policy towards NATO? What should be the policy of NATO towards Ukraine? Actually, it seems clear. Helping, providing aid. What sort of aid? If the German company Leicher refuses to sell us the tools needed to produce the shell of the rocket, and everybody knows that. Turkey actually helps us in it. We are trying to buy a Taplovision matrices and Taplovision equipment, and actually Turkey is helping us in it. When we started that permanent local war and required unmanned aircrafts like Bayraktar, we had none of them, so who was the one to sell them to us? Turkey again. I have no objections. I'm just telling you that if there is a fight, the one standing near and speaking about his neutrality, so it's a sort of a neutral position. This is the situation now with NATO policy. Yes, we have common exercises and there are other issues of politics because I'm not going to discuss them, I'm not a specialist. But based on the 2 days forum, it is called defense industry. Actually, it's related to defense industry. We have to return to it once and again. We have to speak about the development of defense industry in Ukraine, because industry is workplaces. Industry is high-tech manufacturing. Industry is engineering that are working in the high-tech field and not waiting for a visa to go abroad. This is what industry is. So, I guess we all want to have a good life in Ukraine. At least I want to have a good life with good infrastructure and with good industry. Because the army should protect a good life. Because the army, even the best army is the army that is protecting its good life. And we need assistance here. And here I go. Probably our Western partners should let Ukraine supplying the anti-tank missiles to Poland, Slovakia. They have no anti-tank missiles. I know that for sure. Or probably we can ship it to Bulgaria. Sometimes they sell something to us like Javelin missiles. They don't have anything like this. In Poland they have Spike missiles. They are no longer manufacturing it. So, if I want to help my friend, then probably I should cut something from me. I should give something mine. There is no other way. They consider us partners the same as the other countries. No, we are not the same. We are the outpost. You know what I'm talking about. And we want another attitude, a different one. We are saying, okay, let us manufacture our own winged missiles. Let us equip the ships we want to. Just help us, give us the tools, give us technologies. You should not be just neutral and honest. You should have another attitude. I don't know whether the foreigners are listening to me, but we should keep in mind that we need assistance. We need to be helped. Presents. What about the presents? What if Western countries give us such presents? Probably that's good, but we have no presents. What about selling something to us? Probably that's good right now. A bright example is a Bayraktar. Yes, there was an issue that we lack unmanned aircrafts, those old models, those old aircrafts like 2122. Probably I'm mistaken. It had a high speed. Its data has been processed during 3 or 4 days. Nobody needed that data, it was outdated. We need operative data. So the Turkish side helped us. They have sold us the first 6 planes with an appropriate level for tactical recon. So, is it a lifelong contract? Probably not. We got an industry, and that industry produces all components. The engines, the inertial systems, the radio location systems. All those components are enough to equip a modern unmanned aircraft. Well, Ukraine is able to make a blueprint for a subsonic aircraft. Ukraine was the leader, at least it was the leader in transportation aircrafts. It was the leader in construction of engines, because you know that winged missiles have special engines with a short term, with a maximum power of the particular engine volume. We have a potent scientific school of radio location technique, 3 or 4 facilities of a world level. We have the best specialists in aircraft capacity. You know the history of An-70 aircraft. Let me remind it to you. Please, a little bit of clarification. Whether all elements required for your construction bureau are produced in Ukraine? Can Ukrainian industry manufacture all the elements you need? Well, I will speak about it later. Don't be crossed. I'll be brief. Yes, practically all of them. I'm going to speak more about An-70. That was a very good aircraft, the best transport aircraft in the world, with the best characteristics. I know what I'm speaking about. Load capacity, altitude, possibility of air assault. Look at the characteristics of that plane and be sure it is the best plane ever. So, first, Russia banned this issue, and then when we rushed to Western Europe, the Western Europe also banned our cooperation. What is so bad in cooperation on the big project? That's an honor for all participating states and contributes to their economics. But probably somebody played his role in this intrigue. So now, when we are actually an outpost, let us ask ourselves what we need from our Western partners. We need just some small things. When they speak about those modern technologies, well, we are not producing any electronics. Many countries are not producing any electronics. France or Germany, they are buying practically everything. And the USA, well, they have their Silicon Valley, but they are also buying something from Taiwan and China, and from Germany also. So what we need is electronics. But practically we are using not specific electronics, but general common use electronics. We need special electronics, the ultra-short waves, the infrared matrix visors, and everything's related to infrared technique. Yes, even under these conditions, many of our facilities are constructing infrared visors. Yes, they are doing it, and they are working successfully. We need just a little bit of help, because we got very good engineers. I've already told you about the Lviv tools. Moreover, I will not speak about any facility directly. No names here. When we asked one foreign engineer who came to adjust the tool, we asked him to help to produce a detail of a certain technology. He was so scared, so he moved away the next day. His company called him back. This is what they call partnership. I'm not speaking as a politician. I'm speaking as a technician. I just want to have a product. Another issue That is a general one. Yes, I think that we need assistance in development of our military industry because we need a lot of those products. A huge amount of weapons is required, modern weapons, in order to be a real outpost. I believe the politicians understand it also, and I hope that in the end our cooperation strategy will result in it. Yes, we might have failures, sometimes we need forced actions, but still I believe we will be successful. I know that the captains of industry that are present here that I'm meeting, the ones I'm meeting, they are rather optimistic about that, about our future. And I would like to ask all politicians that are dealing with this issue. Development of defense industry and partnership in the defense industry is a crucial issue. We need assistance in this sector. The more we are able to produce, the more working places we have, the more weapons we have, and the more reasonable is the defense. Let me say it like this. Now, a step back to your question. Really, Ukrainian manufacturing can produce everything. We have a good heritage from the lost empire. Only two countries, as far as I can understand, Ukraine and Russia, had all they needed to produce modern military devices, namely manufacturing of engines, missile engines, namely manufacturing of special constructions, the manufacturing of turbojet engines, the manufacturing of locators, special locators for aircrafts. We have that all. Moreover, we even had a mobile base. I mean the Kremenchuk car factory. It's a pity it has disappeared already. We have no facility of this kind now. It's a pity. When we were developing our complex, we started using the Tatra platform for our complex. Okay, not Kras, then Tatra, but still we have our complex. Probably it's even better. Well, I should think from the global point of view, from the state point of view. And here, it is a pity that we have no more Kras factory. We were doing our experiments with Kras platform, and now we are using the foreign platform for line manufacturing. Now, as for continuation, as for anti-missile defense, as our speakers have mentioned before, we have three ways. First, deconservation and modernization of what we have. S-200V complex. This is the way of Poland. They have a sort of modernization of this kind. Another way, buying something foreign. They speak a lot about buying Patriots, Patriot missiles, or buying the Iron Dome Israeli system. And the third way is to develop our own models. You have answered it partially, but which way is the most promising? How do you think? I will disclose certain strategic secrets. There is nothing to deconservate. What is the question? The S-200 complex. It's a pity, but those discussions are run by non-professionals. It's the same way as telling, well, you got a whole storehouse full of cartridges, but only the warden knows that those cartridges are rotten and good for nothing, while the non-specialists think that they have a whole storehouse of cartridges. Is-200 is a heavy missile with a two-component fuel, and that fuel has been already utilized. 10 years ago, the Vietnamese asked us about the regeneration of that fuel. Even Russia has utilized the equipment for renovation of that fuel. So, the ideas about renovation of S-200, they are not technical talks, these are political talks. Another question, maintenance of the current anti-missile sector. I'm not speaking about secrets because it's not a secret. We have a very old park of missiles. The youngest missile has been produced in 1988. So how old is it? It is 33 years old. Most rockets are over 40. Our studies, only Luch is continuing the lifespan of anti-missile rockets. We are running the studies that are demonstrating safety and efficacy of particular techniques. So the efficacy and safety is approved for most missiles. Speaking about history and mathematics, if you got 100 balloons, 40 are black, 60 are whites. So, how many balloons do I have to pick in order to speak about, to predict the ratio? This is called sampling from the general sample. 10 balls, probably. There's a thing called confidence interval, helping to prove the statement. So we need a sample of at least 20 balloons. The same with missiles. In order to predict something precisely, we need to destroy 1/5 of missiles. The bigger is the sample, the more sampling you have to make. Kabaluch is doing an honorable job. We are reviewing, we are studying and approving safety for missiles for the next 5 years. How exactly are we doing this? We are studying the engine, we are studying the bomb. There are many chemical and physical issues, like crystallization of fuel components. The crystallization of that fuel should be within some limits. If the values are higher, it will result in the explosion of the engine and destruction of the rocket itself and the launching pad that is much more expensive. So, we are being pushed all the time. They ask us to confirm the safety. We are running the studies, but the missiles are becoming more and more dangerous year from year. While I'm signing the act of safety and carrying the legal importance, each time I'm checking all the technical reports by myself, because so what is the variant, what is the possible outcome, buying or producing? You cannot choose one, black or white. There is always something in between. Something gray. You see, you're even asking additional questions. That is good. You're interrupting me. That's good, because I can talk about it for a long time. So, of course, now we are maintaining the missiles. We're repairing everything that we can. We are repairing it in cooperation and running the technical maintenance of this technique to make it possible to shoot. But it is more and more difficult to do it. I guess we have 5 or 4 years ahead. We can play this Russian roulette for 5 or 4 years. The topic is anti-missile protection. So here is the question. Since 1991, it is a defensive armament. No objections. This cannot be an assault warfare. Of course it is a defense warfare. So during those 30 years, no ministers of defense wanted to develop an anti-aircraft complex. There were no ideas about developing new anti-aircraft complexes. That is really strange. They were suggesting different variants about assault weapons, and nobody was interested in defense weapons. I do understand that all generals are trying to economize, are trying to save the budget. We have inherited over 10 types of anti-aircraft complexes.
Book of several type C-300, S-200, Pichora, and book which is now. These are all of the complexes of different range, and of course I just know that we were talking about such things. I was part of that. Patriot costs a lot, really a lot. Take Poland as an example. They bought those Patriots. I don't want to be quoted on that. So I will not be giving any numbers. I just know that they bought several Patriots, but they still are not used. 2 years have passed. So it has to be bought and adopted, and then personnel has to be trained, and it's a large number who needs to know how this piece of weapon is going to work. So in my opinion, buying equipment is the simplest thing, but this will not solve the problem. We will not have enough money for that. I think one division, I'm not sure, but I think it costs about $500 million. It means that to get one division of Patriots, we will need to spend our yearly defense budget on that. Well, give or take, of course. I don't want to be quoted on that again, but ladies and gentlemen, of course we need to start this work on developing our equipment. We have professionals who produce radars. We will welcome head of Iskra, Mr. Pashenko, who I much respect. There is a large number of other institutions and enterprises, including private ones, and they're doing a good job. There's cooperation that produces missiles, and they're doing a good job of that as well. I understand that we're coming to the closing questions. The recent exhibition of weapon and defense in 2021, your construction bureau suggested several projects that you developed for anti-aircraft protection. Maybe you can share some of the details with us, of course, that are not classified. Well, whatever is not classified, everybody knows about them, including the Lukyanev market, so we can safely talk about that. As you probably know, we have a special complex military anti-missile Strela-10, Arrow-10. Yes, we have certain suggestions how we can improve the functional capabilities of this to counter new threats. These are unmanned aircraft which will not be identified by radars and by seeker heads and can only be located visually. And that's good that we have companies who produce this kind of equipment that can locate even small quadricopters, so radar set producers. The first is a 10 range of protective zone for the military, for the land forces. Next zone that we can manage. I'm not suggesting something that is 300 kilometers in range. No, I'm talking about things that Ukraine can do. 35 kilometers, this is book range. This is something that book can manage. And the next range is 100 kilometers. And this is enough for anti-air protection. When somebody starts asking about ballistic missiles and then what we do, how can we intercept them, and I immediately ask, are you sure that it will come to that we will live long enough to see that, and that we're really going to be bombed with ballistic missiles? We do not have nuclear weapon. Sometimes Ukraine abandoned it. It may be good, it may be bad. There are many talks about it. We're not into that now. But then ballistic missiles must be used to bomb those who have nuclear weapon. We don't. This is number one thing. Number two, when we talk about long range, we don't need that. We're quite capable of maintaining 100 kilometers range. I once heard from one person, I will be not dropping names, he told me, well, S-300 in Vietnam, it's used once a year when the Minister of Defense is present and the jazz band and all of the military management. Well, you understand, this is very expensive, and it's more of a political thing, political leverage, than really something that's going to be operational and used. So I think it's quite enough if we have these three ranges I mentioned, 10, 35, 40, and 100 kilometers. Thank you. We have just a bit of time. Oh no, we don't have time. Then, I'm sorry, to make sure that we stay on time, I suggest that now we will leave a bit more time for questions and answers in the end of the panel. If somebody has questions to our speaker, you will be able then to ask the questions and you will get your answers a bit later. This was a very interesting discussion. I understand there are many questions. We will now need more chairs for the next panel. 2 more, please. And I will be inviting speakers for our next round. Yuri, Oleg, thank you very much. This was very interesting, and I think that many of you heard it for the first time and maybe started thinking about that for the first time. Now, I will be inviting new panelists to join in our discussion. Mr. Viktor Kivluk, Project Management Director of Swomli Limited, a military expert for the Center of Defense Strategies, Colonel of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, retired. Yuri Pashchenko, General Director of Iskra, and Stanislav Zavialov, Director of Radionics Limited. And Artem Vinnik, Director of Athlon Avia. One of the participants is missing due to some pressing circumstances. Well, that means we will have a little bit more time to engage in discussion. Thank you very much for being here. I would really continue this discussion that we heard between our previous panelists. And this is the question that I will start with, and I will address it to Mr. Kivlyuk. The question is about the tasks now that exist today for high precision weapon, for precision guided munition. So what are the tasks which will help us understand what kind of munition this is going to be? What these are? What ranges we're talking here about? What targets? Thank you, Oksana, for this opportunity to talk. I welcome all of the participants of the conference. In the next panel, we will hear about how operational zones of future are changing. I will just talk about a couple of things that are characteristic of precision-guided munition, how artillery uses it. Quite recently in the United States, we saw a conference that was organized online, and rockets and artillery troops of various countries were present. This is what we can see. In the nearest 10 years, artillery will be the primary combat force. Air forces. The second thing is a balance in terms of the various types of equipment that we find: missiles, complexes, shell artillery. What will be improved is the precision of strikes, because that means simpler logistics. It's just one hit. You don't need dozens of missiles. Next, it's a wider range of units that use it to create effects, as we see it in the NATO documents, and improved transparency of the battlefield, meaning that not a single movement will not be unnoticed by the reconnaissance of your enemy. So, high precision munition, smart munition, this is the 6th generation army. If we have 4th generation army, probably it's a little bit early to talk about this type of munition. However, I counted 15 producing countries, and it's a little club where Ukraine has its place, which I'm definitely very happy about. The Tusks, Tomahawk in 1990 and Yugoslavia in the Allied Forces operation was used. Still, the experts are divided on whether this was effective or not. And the evaluation was the following: if Yugoslavia at the moment had 500 cruise missiles, then NATO would not be considering this operation. If Yugoslavia had 2 or 3 nuclear types of weapon of any kind of capacity, there would be even no talking about invasion. Then, containing role of this type of warfare. The United States, as the most powerful country in this respect, can deliver from 3,000 to 7,000 units of smart munition. The range of 2 meters, it means that they can strike about 2,000 of nuclear missiles launchers. The Russians describe that as a colossal damage to strategic nuclear forces of Russian Federation, meaning that a country that can strike quickly and with high precision and using non-nuclear weapon can manage with a country that does have nuclear potential. So what Mr. Korostolov and his construction bureau is doing is a very good way to go. Generally, the designs, we're very happy. We have Vilha, we have Stugna, but we lost a lot in terms of tactics. Who is producing laser detective devices? Who's producing laser flashes for the behind the enemy lines? I haven't seen that. Vilha and Neptune is the reality of today. Luch construction bureau can do a lot. What are the troops are going to do that? Stack it? We need units that will be able to use and maintain this smart munition. And I do not see any activity within the armed forces that would be actively engaged in the activity of creating such units. Transport machines, control machines, anti-tank missiles forgot in the Baltzer by the 25th Mechanized Battalion. Out of 25 launches, 7 were successful. Why? No control machines that are ready to operate. This is something we can face anytime. The situation. I haven't heard of solutions. We need personnel. The personnel who are ready to launch. The operators, provided they tried 1,000 launches on a simulation. Have you seen a simulation system for Javelin? Yeah, the Javelins exist, but what do we do to train the operators? To use smart munition, we need navigation systems and time synchronizing systems. It's very promising, but I don't have enough information to know that somebody is doing that. We talk about the land forces, land component, but what's happening with the Navy, with the Air Force? In the Navy, there is a tendency for changing the role of the combat aviation. It is turning into a transport means to deliver smart munition. Are we ready for that, or are we going to modernize Su-25 continuously? We saw Iron Dome in Israel, an anti-missile system. What do we do in terms of anti-missile systems? That's a problem. Now the development of artillery. I'm an artillery officer in my past. If necessary, I will come back and I will be ready to do certain tasks. But so far as a consumer of defense industry, I would like to have equipment that's more modern. The world is going towards constructing artillery system of the caliber of 50-52 and the charging camera of 52 liters, and ammunition of model charging. No, the rest of the world stops using old methods, and the ammunition is getting older in some other respects too. It takes 2 minutes to charge the system, and then recharging it takes 46 and plus minutes. But we want to have missiles. We want them to be loaded not by hand, but using cranes. Then when it comes to other types, we will hear more. And mortars, of course it's a good thing, with a range of 15 kilometers. This is a reasonable desire to have something like that. We'll hear about that more later. Anti-tank complexes, 5-6 kilometers is something that we can manage. How about helicopters? Yeah, we lost that. Can we use anti-tank systems for boats like Kurza in for example, the Danube River? Well, there is still room for improvement here. Now, staff machines, Obolon complex, which has taken 20 years to adopt. It's already quite old. Now computers are small, it can fit a mobile phone, but now we need a tractor size of a machine dating back to the Cold War times. Now reconnaissance. We see a misbalance between the artillery range and the reconnaissance range. We are a blind boxer. We can't strike, but we don't really see targets where we need to strike. So all our hopes lie with Iskra, who understand our needs and hopefully will supply us with this kind of equipment. Then Mr. Grinevetsky was talking about that. Any kind of plans will not be implemented without personnel. I was part of looking for a specialist in Rivne, a machinist, a turner in Rivne. There was just one person who we could find, and it took us a long time. So even if we have equipment, who's going to use it? We need to support technical education, because who will then be producing armament and weapon?
Thank you. And another question is for Mr. Yuri. Whether the industry knows about those tasks, about those needs, how the data is being transferred to you. Are you receiving those requests? We are here not only to complain, we're searching for solutions. So, considering the unique experience, your unique points of view, so what is the possible solution? Please try it again. I can't hear you yet. Put it upward. Beg your pardon for this technical delay. We are not going to complain for sure. I'm not going to make any advertisement of our Iskra facility. Just a few words about it, because its issues can be extrapolated to other fields of defense sector. Iskra facility is a monopolist in the field of radars. This company is dealing with the monitoring of airspace. We are also manufacturing the anti-artillery radars and electronic countermeasures, and we are supplying our products to the military. So the facility understands the needs of the military, because actually the developer, the designer, probably the designer knows best what exactly should be produced. He knows the worldwide trends. He knows the similar devices produced in other countries. So we are monitoring the worldwide situation, and we are making our technique on the world's level. Our technique is being used in 20 countries. It is compliant with the threshold required for the military forces of Ukraine. As for the tasks that are known not only to the developer Iskra, but to other companies, another myth I would like to speak about: there are no state or private facilities. There is no difference between the request of the state or the export product. It is considered that state facilities are outdated, clumsy, and producing something useless. This is wrong. This is a wrong idea. We are exporting and proposing only the effective technique